Number 1. Don't hitchhike anymore tonight. When I was 17, I did not have a driver's license. In fact, I was 36 before I did. I walked most places, occasionally catching rides with my friends, and less occasionally hitchhiking. The night in question was one of those seldom seen occasions when I decided to hitchhike, having worked late and being too exhausted to walk. Now, most of the time when I'd hitch a ride, I wouldn't get in the car with a lone man, only women, or rarely men with a child, wife, girlfriend. This night, though, cars were few and far between, and it was cold. And really, if I'm being perfectly frank, when he pulled over, I took a good look and decided I could take him if he tried anything. He was on the slender side and had a strange frailness about him, even though he looked healthy enough. I got into the car after we agreed on a destination. We exchanged names, and I warmed my fingers in front of the heating vent. He spoke quietly, asking a few questions along the lines of was I a local and how did I like living there. He'd said he'd only been there a couple of months but found it beautiful and hoped he could find happiness there. That comment struck me as a little odd, but I brushed it off. It began to snow, and the road quickly got slippery, so he slowed and kept his eyes straight out the windshield, driving silently. I was okay with that, as small talk was never my forte. About 10 minutes later, I noticed a car near the intersection we were approaching seemed to be sliding, so I said, "Watch out!" He immediately hit the gas, shooting through the intersection, and burst out with, "Don't ever scream at me again!" Needless to say, I was taken aback. I said, Look, this is close enough. Just pull me over here and I can get there." He didn't seem to hear me. Richard? Did you hear me? I said you can pull over here and let me out. No response. He just stared straight ahead, driving faster than he had since it began to snow. To say I was scared doesn't seem to cover the depth of the fear that began to arise in me. I didn't know if I should stay quiet or speak, but I was damn sure not going to yell after his outburst. After about a mile, he began to mumble under his breath. I couldn't quite make out what he was saying, but I assumed he was speaking to me. So I said, I couldn't hear you." He began to speak quietly and rapidly, saying things like, "You're always yelling at me. I've told you time and again I do not appreciate being yelled at. But do you listen? No. Well, I'm done listening to you. Do you hear that?" I was at a complete loss. I didn't know what to say in response, or if I should say anything at all. I contemplated just jumping out of the car, but nixed that idea when I realized the door lock was missing. There was just a silver-lined hole where it should have been. I started to cry, and I debated with myself about causing an accident by grabbing the wheel and hoping for the best. At least I figured there was a chance I'd survive that. When he suddenly looked at me for the first time I had gotten into the car, he blinked several times rapidly, then slowed the car, pulling into a gas station. I waited to see if he unlocked the doors, not wanting to say anything to set him off again. After a minute or two, he quietly said, "I think I better let you out here," and hit the button to open the locks. I wasn't about to hesitate. I jumped out of the car as if it were on fire. I was about to turn and walk into the gas station when he called my name. He looked so damn sad. I hesitated. He apologized, said he was sorry if he frightened me, that he never would have harmed me, and asked if I would be able to get home okay. I said I would and closed the door. He began to pull out of the gas station lot, but stopped suddenly. He just sat there for a couple of moments, his head down. I froze, wondering what the hell he was up to, and was about to run into the station. But he opened his window and yelled at me, waving something in his hand. My hat. I left it on his seat. I warily approached his side of the car, and he handed it to me, apologizing again. I didn't know what else to say, so I just said thanks. I watched as he drove off, making sure he was out of sight before moving on so he wouldn't know which direction I was headed. I decided to go to a friend's house instead of home. As I walked, I went to put my hat back on. Out fell a piece of paper. Folded into that paper was $100 bill. The paper said, "I'm sorry, please take a cab and don't hitchhike anymore tonight." I didn't. In fact, it was the last time I ever hitched a ride alone. Number 2. Here I Am to Kill You. This happened to my parents back in the late 80s. They were in their mid-20s when this all occurred. My parents decided to go camping in cool California. When they got there, it was kind of late. My mom was sitting down on a log while my dad was unpacking. While sitting down, she heard walking around the campsite. So she went and quietly told my dad she heard someone walking around. They noped out of there just in case. They drove around 3 miles down the road with their headlights off so they wouldn't be followed. Once they got there, they set up their camp and began to drink, while listening to a boxing match on the radio. Eventually, they settled in for the night. Now they don't know for sure that this next event is connected to the first, but they believe it is. So, they settled in and my dad was asleep far before my mom. My mom was in the halfway state, when you're half awake and halfway asleep. Suddenly, she heard footsteps outside of the tent. She abruptly snapped back into consciousness and listened. She tried waking my dad, but he was way too out of it. She listened for what seemed like hours when suddenly she hears, in the creepiest voice you could ever imagine, "Here I am. I'm going to kill you." While saying this, the man ran what she believes to be a knife along the tent. She could hear him walking and dragging the knife. She was literally frozen. She couldn't say anything or move with her mouth agape. She finally snapped out of it and screamed, "Jim, grab the shotgun and kill him." With that, my dad finally awoke. They heard snapping and twigs and footsteps and heard the guy running away. Of course, my parents didn't have a shotgun. It was a huge bluff that actually worked. My dad got up seconds later and began to run after him, but he was long gone. After that, my parents decided they were getting out of there before anything else happened. When they saw their tires were slashed, they were in the middle of nowhere, no way out, with some maniac that wanted to kill them. They actually tried blowing up their tires with one of those things you use to blow up rafts. Obviously that didn't work, but they had to try, right? About an hour or so, a ranger that was patrolling the area came along and helped them out. He brought them back to town so they could fix their tires. While talking to the ranger, they found out that he had been searching for any suspicious activity due to recent murders nearby. My parents were likely the murderer's next victim. Tried finding some of the murder cases online, but was unable to. Number 3. Stranger Under the Bed. I'm 22, and this incident happened a year and a half ago. I had just moved into my first apartment and was in the process of moving in. The door that led into my apartment locks itself automatically when closed. So I was going to the entrance of the apartment complex to get my mail, while talking on the phone with my boyfriend. I returned to my apartment and sat on the bed while opening the mail while using the phone. I dropped the phone on the floor and it landed under the bed, so I had to lie on the floor and stretch for it. I saw something that caught my eye. There was someone under my bed. My eyes widened and I choked the urge to scream. The person under my bed was lying still with his back towards me and his head to his chest, so I couldn't see his face, and he didn't see me. Trying to be rational while so many thoughts rushed through my head, I picked up the phone and said, "Sorry, I dropped my phone. I'm just gonna take a shower and call you back." The bathroom was right by my bed, so I hastily walked in, quietly locked the door, turned my shower on, jumped out of my window, my apartment is on the first floor, and called the police. They told me to wait nearby, but to go across the street and see if anyone comes out of the door to the apartment complex. This was during summer and it was still light out. I placed myself across the street, hiding behind a car while watching my open bathroom window, and the entry door. I called my boyfriend, and he came to me just before the police. I gave them my keys, and they went inside. Only moments later, 2 cops came out holding a thin and tired-looking man. His eyes looked crazy, but he didn't try to get away. The policeman that had stood beside me and comforted me while the police searched through my house. I was a mess, shivering and crying. He told me that the man stood outside my bathroom door with one of my kitchen knives, waiting for me to come out. This man had somehow crept in my entry door while I was getting my mail and hid under the bed. The man that was trying to hurt me turned out to be a homeless person, was placed in a mental hospital. My boyfriend moved in with me the very next day.